special meeting for the Salem City Council, actually a special meeting for the purpose of budget committee member interviews, and we appreciate the 4 candidates who have come to interview with the council. And our council president, Chuck Bennett, who is also the chair of our budget committee, is detained a little bit tonight, and so we'll just go ahead and start. And counselors, in front of you there are 5 questions, and did the applicants also receive the questions ahead of time? No.
No.
Okay. We don't do that apparently. All right. Okay.
But if you watch the previous interview.
All right. So the way this process will work is that we will start with one person, and I think just as starting on the end, we'll start with Mr. Wildfang, and then we'll rotate the next question. We'll start with the next person and the next, so that you all have an opportunity to go first. And we'll do it that way. And what we like to do is actually share among the counselors the opportunity to ask the question. So we're going to start first by asking each of you to introduce yourself with a little brief verbal bio about yourself, or information about why you're interested in doing this, and make that brief just to give us a little flavor about what point you're in with your knowledge about the city. And then we'll actually get into the interview questions. And Mr. Wildfang, shall we start with you?
Yeah. My name's Don Wildfang, and just I moved to Oregon in '71 after I left the Navy, and entered the family business with construction, did some land development, and this was over in Polk County, Monmouth area. And then when the gas crisis hit, went back to school and became a 6th grade teacher. Did that for 10 years in Dallas. Did my whole education career in Dallas. And then became a teaching principal at a rural school, assistant principal for 4 years at Lac Réal, and then principal for 4 years at Lac Réal. Moved to the district office. And worked as transportation director, director of support services, principal of the self-contained kindergarten. Was pretty much a troubleshooter guy for the district, and they had me start an alternative high school. Started that and ran it for 5 years, and then converted it to a charter school. Ran that for 3 years, and then left the district. I've been working half-time since then at the Oregon Department of Education, and I'm licensing private career schools there. I've got my superintendent license, but I've never actually sat in that capacity. So most of my budget experience is at the building level and the district office level.
Mayor, if I could, I apologize for having to be on the phone. I noticed it was flashing. The dispatch center thought we were having an emergency. We must have just hit the button by accident, but I didn't want a group of police officers to run into that while we're interviewing.
Too late.
Oh, no, we're good. It was a mistake. It works. Thank you. Fast response.
That's kind of scary. This guy did it right here.
We're good.
Trying to scare us.
All right.
Gotta be careful.
All right. We do apologize. All right. Mr. Freed.
Good evening, and thank you for inviting me here this evening to interview. My name is Mark Freed. I was originally in the Navy as a nuclear chemist and mechanic. Came out there, worked for the state of New Mexico as a workers' compensation specialist, which took care of the whole quarter, southeast quarter of New Mexico in workers' compensation, and trying to prevent accidents before they happen to keep costs curtailed. I then became a college administrator, operated college bookstores, the largest one being about a $13 million operation. Came to Salem to a new position as a new company that I came to work for. We were originally at a $2 million revenue, and 7 years later, when I left to start my own business, we were at a $40 million revenue. I'm currently a co-founder of Dream Digital, I have served on the Social Services Advisory Board with the city, been involved in several task force, and had the opportunity to serve a partial term on this committee, and then had to make a choice between the Social Services Advisory Committee, of which I was the chair, or this when we discovered that chairs on other committees and individuals on committees that had fiduciary responsibility should not be sitting on both. Through that point, I've taken a little bit of rest from community service in the city. I'm also the president-elect of the United Way of the Mid-Willamette Valley. I love serving the community that I'm in because I think it's extraordinarily important to give back, and that's why I'm here.
Thank you very much. Mr. Gonzalez, welcome.
Yes. Yeah, welcome. Thank you very much. My name is Jose Gonzalez.
Can you speak right up into the microphone?
Yeah. Good afternoon. My name is Jose Gonzalez, and I'm a lifelong Oregonian, born in Portland, but lived in Woodburn, Hubbard, Aurora, Mount Angel. I moved to Salem, '97. Loved it, and I don't plan to leave. And that's about the time I joined real estate. That's what I do. That's my day job. I'm the president of Tucasa Real Estate. We've been serving Salem for 18 years, and we're keeping steady and growing. Doing what we can. I would say what really surprises me is sometimes how many people don't get involved. How many people just don't, maybe, I don't know if it's don't have the courage or don't feel their input is valued. And so that's what I've tried to be a champion for, is try to get people involved that haven't been involved, or explain it in a way that they do understand. And so I've been involved in different nonprofits, and started one here based in Salem called the Latino Business Alliance. We've worked alongside with the local Chamber of Commerce, the Woodburn Chamber of Commerce. And I sit on a few other boards. And I think there's two strengths for me. My two strengths are numbers. I've loved numbers. It all started in 4th grade when the teacher got me to get up and do I think it was a subdivision. And when she said go, I finished it in 2 seconds, and everybody just looked at me, and I said, I didn't know why they were looking at me. And it was because I finished it so quickly. And I've always just been good at numbers. And second is outreach and marketing, just because numbers have to tell a story and try to tell it appropriately. So that's a little bit about me.
Thank you very much. Mr. Clark.
Hi, my name's Tyler Clark. Lifelong resident of Salem, have no intentions to live anywhere else. I went to school here in South Salem and spent some time in Sprague High School in South Salem. And, Then I went to Oregon State in Corvallis for a few years, where I got a bachelor's in business and minored in construction and engineering management. At that point, I moved back to Salem and began a career in real estate, also commercial real estate, and also began attending Portland State University, their real estate and urban development master's program, which I completed about a year ago. I spent 4 years as a commercial real estate broker, and then went out on my own. I manage another small real estate office here in town, and we specialize in commercial and residential real estate. We have brokers that do both, and I oversee all of that. I also own another property holding business, which I oversee and invest with. I also have a general contracting business. I just completed a month-and-a-half long fire damage renovation to a DMV building in Gresham last month. So I have a fair amount of experience. I have a fair amount of knowledge, and I like finance. I like numbers, and I think I'd be good for this position. I'd like to be further involved in the community. I've served on the Kaiser Urban Renewal Advisory Board until that went on a involuntary hiatus about a year ago, and I've also been serving on my neighborhood Sunny Slope neighborhood board. So,
Good.
so yeah.
Fine. Well, thank you very much. Thank you, all 4 of you. All right, we'll start in with the questions, and I'm going to ask Counselor Nanke to start with
Well, there's
question
the budget
number
committee chair.
1. And he's with us. Chuck, would you like to come and preside?
Oh.
If you'd like to?
No, why don't you go ahead?
All right. Okay. Well, we've already pushed the wrong button up here and called
Oh, the police department.
the entire squad of the police department. So you missed the excitement, but I'm glad you're here.
They're
So
probably keeping him away.
they
They had
I hope they weren't. Anyway, Mr. Nanke, Counselor Nanke, would you like to start and ask the first question of Mr. Wildfang?
Would it start with him, or would we move one
Well,
position?
we'll start with him, and then we'll go down to
Okay.
each person.
Question number 1. Dun-dun-dun. Your understanding of the role of the Budget Committee?
From what
To the
I
best of
understand.
your knowledge.
Yes, to the best of my knowledge, I've not served on one prior to this, but what I expect the Budget Committee to do is work with a staff member here. They'll explain and go over the prior budget, what the goal is, what the expectation is for the group, and then we ask clarifying questions, see what we can in terms of bringing some insight that we may have, because that's what I'm assuming that you want from us, is a variety of stakeholders and volunteers, is some opinion from us. We make a recommendation, and then that recommendation, I think it'd go to the Planning Commission, and then it would probably go to you.
Thanks.
We're advisory only, and so it stops when our paper's handed to somebody else.
All right. Thanks.
Role of the advisory of the Citizen Budget Committee. It's an advisory committee, really almost more like an oversight of looking at the process and ensuring the process was done well, looking for insights, potential changes, and reacting to what actually comes before that committee at a time to see whether or not there's a way to thread the needle when challenges come up during that process. Then making a good recommendation to the City Council on the expenditure. And I would say that was generally what I see as its role. The other thing I might add is that one of the interesting challenges I think that we come up with in any budget committee, especially publicly funded, is how do we take care of tactical needs while investing into the strategic future of the community? And that's the other piece that this committee really has to look at for success in the long term of the city.
Same question. I think the role is, from what I understand, is an advisor. We're going to advise the council as a whole on the budgeting process, assisting with the communication between the council, the city, and the community, and primarily advisory. I don't see our job as someone that's going to put up roadblocks, barriers, but more being that connection to the community from the council.
Some great answers there. I don't know how much more I could really add to that description of an advisory role.
Works for me.
Okay. Counselor Clausen, would you like to ask the second question?
I would love to, thank you.
Okay.
If it's okay, Mayor, I'd like to actually skip to number 3 on our sheets, but what do you see as the biggest challenges to our budget committee this year, the biggest challenges and concerns, and how describe to me how you would individually go about weighing one item versus another?
Big challenge. Challenge is the shrinking amount of funds that are available for the operating budget year by year. That's it in a nutshell. How do we go about doing something about that? And I think that's what you're asking. Yes?
That works. I was thinking just how do you go about making your decisions of weighing one item versus another and keeping the big picture in mind?
Thank you. I think the first thing to look at is what are the priorities set by the City Council for funding for that year? and then weighing the overall impact for all of those priorities, safety, social, the living community and economic growth as the typical priorities. And then looking at how much do you have available and what is going to be the outcome of that expenditure. And as we have that shrinking revenue, we have to kind of think outside the box, which is a little cliche, but I think what we really have to do is reimagine what those funds will actually do and think 2, 3, 4 expenditures out as that iteration of expenditures happens. And that's how I would go through my thought process.
Well, I look at it just at our small business. You got to do the best with what
Excuse
you
me, I
have.
think Mr. Gonzalez, I'm not sure if your speaker, if your microphone is on, or if you just need to speak
Can you hear
more
me? Is that better?
loudly and
Oh,
closer to the microphone. Sometimes, some of these microphones are really a little
Touchy.
better than others. So.
Yeah, I think the approach I take is you got to do the best with what you have, and there's going to be some tough decisions. The city, the council as a whole has priorities. We're going to, I see our job is coming in to maybe have not saying a different voice, but a unique voice to add along to the other voices in the community. That way the council can make the decisions based on what we hear and what we're able to relate to you. But that's what it is. Just do the best with what we got. There's going to be some tough decisions, and always remain optimistic. And if we can properly engage most of the community, then I think that'll give the council, the city as a whole, confidence in to move ahead with its decision.
Can you repeat the question again?
Sure. So it's a little bit of a two-part. What do you see as the biggest challenges for the Budget Committee this year, and how would you go about in making your decisions of weighing one item versus another while maintaining the big picture?
So the biggest challenges facing the Budget Committee this year, I think, are going to be the same challenges that faced it the last few years. The shrinking revenue, increasing need for those funds and projects and programs. And I'd approach that as pragmatically as possible, and have to weigh the needs of the city maybe higher than the desires. It's hard to tell without examples in front of me, but fairly and justly.
Obviously, one of the things that was mentioned earlier is the city's goals that are currently in place, both short-term and long-term, and what those are. I'm sure they're targeted and projected out for a 1 to 10 year period of time. So those things need to be taken into consideration. We've got fixed expenditures, we've got contracts that you're already bound by, and I think within that, the discretionary spending is probably pretty limited, I would expect. But within that discretionary money that the city has available, I think it's going to be critically important that we're able to defend the decision that we made on those expenditures. And from a taxpayer point of view, personally, I'd like to see the point of delivery. To the degree possible, will the citizens be able to say, I feel like when I'm paying my taxes, I'm getting a good punch for the buck, or I understand the constraints and the limitations, and the city council is doing and the mayor's doing the best they can with the resources available. So, and it's an education process for me. And I think that's one of the other things that we do when we go away from a position like this, is we become ambassadors to the degree possible and help us understand the process better.
I think the majority of question number 2 was taken up.
I think so. I think so. So we'll move down to number 4. Councilor Dickey, would you like to ask that question? And you can certainly.
Actually, I had a
if you
different
want
question. This is a sample question, so I had
Sure.
actually a different question, and
All right.
this will be a short answer question. You've had your essay questions, so I want to make this simple. I'm curious to know if you've had an opportunity to look at the current budget that we're using, or years past budgets. I think they're on the website, but if you've had a chance to look at it.
I haven't seen this. I was involved a little bit in last year's presentation of the budget to the community, We hosted at one of the presentations, but I haven't seen this year's. No.
I've looked at it, but I can't recall anything from memory, and I don't remember committing a lot of thought to it, just looking at the numbers, thinking interesting. So.
No, I've not been able to view it.
I have looked at it and reviewed the council's priorities just prior to this meeting.
Okay.
That was quick.
Then number 4, Councilor Thomas, would you like to handle that
Yes, thank you. I'd like to go with number 2.
one? Okay, good.
Why do you want to be a member of the Budget Committee, and what contributions can you make to the committee?
Well, I'd like to be a member to be more involved in the community, learn, be involved in local government, understand that process. What I can bring is my time and my experience in similar realms, so.
I was shamed into it. I believe there was an article that was written, or it might have been some minutes from your committee. It might have been in the Statesman, but it basically said it compared how few volunteers there are in this city. So my wife and I talked it over, and they said, well, why don't you do something? And I said, well, that sounds like a good idea. What should I do? So I am here strictly in that capacity because, you know, we've got a great city, and it's you people serve as volunteers the same as we're applying for, and those types of things. I think the administrative experience that I have with preparing budgets and dealing with those, Dallas isn't a small district. We've got 3,000 students over there. And, so I've been involved in that multiple years.
I just really like serving and giving back to the communities, which is why I'm interested in serving on this committee again. There's something that happens when you give back that is greater, that you get back much more than you ever give to the community as you give. And I've discovered that through a number of different community activities, whether it's Shriners, United Way, Kiwanis, Rotary. You get back so much more. And it's about learning, and the only thing we leave in this world is how do we help others. Everything else is transitory. What do I have to offer? I've spent a lot of time, fortunately or unfortunately, with budgets and public budgets in the school. At New Mexico Junior College, I was the number 3 fiscal person, so I had a large amount of budgetary discretion and a lot to look at. A holistic view, and I think a different perspective of what's happening around the community in different areas because of my social service involvement and my business involvement.
You know, I've reviewed the, I think it was last year when I realized how many boards and commissions the city of Salem has. I think it was last year. I think the mayor mentioned it at a meeting, and I was in shock. I was surprised at how simple and complicated it is, you know. And so I've been serving on boards, maybe 5 years total, maybe 5-6 years. I've been on different boards, and I've gone off some just because I feel that maybe I don't have what they need at that moment. And after reviewing this and talking to Councilor Dickey, I realized that, like I said, there's 2 areas that I always seem to gravitate towards, which are numbers based, and then maybe some kind of community outreach kind of component. And so this is the committee that interests me, and how can I be a part of I would say more than how can I better serve is once I know the story behind the numbers, I feel pretty confident in being able to relay that to other stakeholders and, bring back, mix it all up, bring it back for you guys to digest, and maybe reach those that haven't been involved very, just in general, just haven't been involved. Get them involved. Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Councilor Blasey?
Well, I'm very impressed with all of your experience, especially with regards to budgets. The question that I have is a little unique to the city, and so I'm going to read it, and I'll be more than happy to repeat it.
What is your opinion about the fact that benefit and wage topics such as PERS, contributions, and labor negotiations are not within the discretion of the Budget Committee?
Does it need this time?
I'd be happy to repeat that.
Yeah, that's okay. That's how I would expect it to be. I wouldn't expect anything different. And that's your job to negotiate those, I think.
Well, in most cases, those are pretty much fixed, and we're not really a negotiation committee, nor are most citizens well-versed enough on what happens in negotiated contracts. That doesn't mean that there aren't individuals out there who can assist, but it's really not the role of this committee, and it's I don't think it's within that purview, and it's not a problem.
Yeah, no negative thoughts on my end at all. Yeah.
You do the best with what you have, and if that's off the table, then we do the best with what we can advise on.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Counselor Bennett, would you like to ask a question?
Thank you.
As chair of the Budget Committee, I think you have a particular insight into the budget process, and you served on the Budget Committee yourself, as I remember, some time back. So we're going to let you do the free-for-all here.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor. I apologize for being late. I had a different time in my head, so I was just kind of having a quiet evening at home. Wrong evening, wrong time. Do any of you have areas of real particular interest in the budget? I mean, very specific line items or chunks of the budget that have really either you're interested in, you have concerns about, you believe from your own understanding of the community are either overfunded or underfunded? I'm just looking for kind of if you have a focus that you're coming on with.
I don't have any particular focus, although there's always areas that I think are interesting to look at. I'm always concerned about, and I shouldn't say concerned, I'm always cognizant that we have to ensure the safety of our community as the first piece. I think one of the things that happens is we've got a very capable budget officer and a very capable staff. And having worked in public service, I understand how much work goes into just creating the numbers that we start looking at. So it's not a matter for me of looking at it and being concerned, are those numbers appropriate? It's more a matter of saying, is there some place that we can help if we see something unique or that hasn't been thought of that can be integrated? So I walk in with no agenda, except to know that the staff have worked hard, believing in the staff, and hoping that if we see something, whether it's myself or somebody else, that we can help make the process or the budget better.
Thank you.
And no particular area of focus. Public safety is important to me. You know, being an agent real estate agent for 16 years, been in front of hundreds of families and thousands of homes, I've seen, and the main reason why people move in and out of a neighborhood, and it's do they feel safe, and that leads to economic opportunity, development, and just other things that come after that. So that to me is always an area of importance.
I have no particular area or line item that I'm concerned or overly interested in.
I would say probably, I'm a big private sector guy, and I would say probably anything that we could take a look at that might encourage industry or employment. I also like asking clarifying questions. I enjoy being a part of a team that works well together and hearing good conversation and you know, maybe a little debate occasionally, see how things go. So for me, that type of a thing is a team type of a deal. So I enjoy working on a good team.
Great. Thank you.
All right. I think that concludes our questions. We each have ballots in front of us, and so I would ask that you mark your ballots, and then I believe...
I think we'll do that at the council meeting.
During the
During the council meeting, so we can end the interviews and
right.
think the candidates and then open the council meeting.
All
And then
right,
we'll-
fine. Okay, thank you. All right, we do appreciate you coming. I'm so pleased that each of you came and obviously feel that we're blessed to have the quality of candidates that we have with us tonight. Appreciate so much you being with us.
Thank you.
Thank you. Let's see. All right, I will call to order the special city council meeting for Monday, October 15. Will the city recorder please call the roll?
Counselor Bennett?
Here.
Counselor Tesler is absent. Counselor Nanke?
Here.
Counselor Clausen? Here. Counselor Dickey? Here. Counselor Thomas? Here. Counselor Blasey? Here. Counselor Clem is absent. Mayor Peterson?
Here. Thank you. Will you all please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
See, I have to pause because otherwise I mess everybody else up. There's no pause.
I know. If you wouldn't pause, we wouldn't pause.
Okay, I'll start the meeting. Everybody else forgets
We're
the
just
rest
trying
of
to
the
carry you here.
words.
But you hate to run over. I know you start waiting for him to say.
Okay, I'll go back. To
All right, Counselor Bennett.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I
Would you move the approval of the agenda?
Yes, Madam Mayor. I move approval of the special meeting agenda for October 15th.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent calendar, or excuse me, to approve the agenda with the additions, deletions, and revisions, and there are several, so be sure to look at those. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Thank you. All right. We have some time for council comment. Do councilors have comments they would like to make this evening? Councilor Nanke.
Yeah, I noticed it was raining today.
Yeah.
Thank you.
The aquifer noticed, yes. Good.
It's been a while.
All right. I have a couple of things to share. One is that tomorrow, the open house for the Mid-Willamette Valley Council of Governments' new offices at the corner of State and High Street will be open for an open house, and that's from 5:30 to 7:30. So we are encouraging the community and the councilors to visit the open house and take a look at the new offices and meet the staff of the Council of Governments. Appreciate it if you could do that. There is also a board meeting from 4 to 5:30, and I will be unable to attend, and if any of you would be able to attend and represent the city, that would be a wonderful wonderful thing if you could possibly do that. It's from 4 to 5:30, and anyone wishing to do so could check in tomorrow with Linda Kate, and she has all of the meeting materials and would be happy to go over those with you. Okay. We have several action items, and we're not working on a consent calendar this evening, so we'll begin with the action item. The first one is the Citizen Budget Committee interview appointments. We will now vote and collect the ballots for that. And again, you have in front of you the ballot for Ward 7 and Ward 5, and for Ward 4, with 2 candidates. So we will be collecting those, and then if there's a runoff that needs to occur, we'll handle that on the next ballot. And who's collecting our ballots? Okay.
Are we doing one?
Do them all?
I think because you've got 3 separate wards, you could vote for all 3 of them the first
Yeah, we
round.
can do it all at once, I think. And then if we need to, we'll do another ballot.
You won't need to. You've got 7 counselors.
I'm sorry.
You won't need to. You've got 7 counselors. There's no way you can have it done. It's a great thing about having an odd number. That's right.
Oh, you're optimistic.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks.
Unless we just said we didn't have none of the above selection. See, it's all the newer home construction. They don't let it breathe like a 90-some-year-old house. It basically flushes everything. They're going back to that. The whole house just leaks air, so energy-wise versus. Oh, yeah. This caster's sound, if you're concerned. Oh, excellent. Sideline? Okay. Cool. There you go. And from the council.
The results of the vote, the tally of the vote is Tyler Clark has been unanimously elected for the Ward 7 seat. Jose Gonzalez has been unanimously elected for the Ward 5 seat, and Don Wildfang has received 6 votes and has been appointed to the Ward 4 seat.
All right. Well, congratulations, and thank you again for being willing to join the Budget Committee. Excellent. Thank you. All right. We have another item on our agenda this evening, and that has to do with the City of Salem budget calendar. And that's in your agenda packet. City Manager Linda Norris, would you like to say anything about the budget calendar?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. We're getting started. Departments are already beginning work on next year's budget with the internal rates. Then on November 7th, we have an economic discussion with Tim Dewey from the University of Oregon, which is always very interesting, I think, and informative. And then we'll have our fourth quarter financial report from last year. And I'm pleased to say that we saved some additional money, and am sorry to say that we're going to need that because some of the other costs are coming in higher, but I'm very pleased pleased that we had the savings to absorb some of those additional costs we hadn't anticipated. PERS costs are going to be more than we anticipated. For example, November 28th, we are doing the 5-year forecast, and this year, for the first time in some time, I don't know if it was ever done before, we're doing 4 funds. We're going to do the general fund, water and sewer, transportation, and building and safety, because they all, I think, are important for the Budget Committee to really understand what the 5-year outlook looks like for those 4 funds. So, okay.
Are there any questions regarding the budget calendar? Councilor Bennett, would you like to make a motion?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I move the City Council approve the City of Salem fiscal year 2013-14 budget calendar.
It's been moved by Councilor Bennett and seconded by Councilor Thomas. Is there any discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Opposed say nay. Motion carries. Thank you. The last item on our agenda this evening, get to our renewed agenda.
I think that's it for the City Council. The next is the urban renewal.
Right, all right. So there's no further business to come toward before the City Council. This meeting's adjourned. I'll now call to order this meeting, this special meeting of the City of Salem Urban Renewal Agency for October 15, 2012. Thank you. Will the recorder please call the roll? I'm sorry, did you?
I just wanted to mention what we're passing out, because the numbers are so small on the 8.5 by 11 sheet. It's the same information, but just in a larger format.
Okay, great. All right, recorder?
Board Member Bennett?
Here.
Board Member Tesler is absent. Board Member Nanke? Here. Board Member Clausen is present, but just away from his desk.
Yeah.
Board Member Dickey?
Here.
Board Member Thomas?
Here.
Board Member Blasey?
Here.
Board Member Clem is absent. Chair Peterson?
Here. Thank you. All right, do we have a staff report this evening?
Yes, Mr. Wills, would you just go over some of the information? I don't see any public, so I'm assuming we don't.
We need to approve
Oh, you didn't do the
meeting
special
agenda.
meeting. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, we do
That's-
need to do that. I'm really lost with that one.
Say here, Rich.
Madam Mayor, I'll just,
Yes, thank you.
I'll go ahead. No problem. I
Thank
move
you.
approval of the special meeting agenda for the Urban Renewal Agency with additions and corrections.
Thank you. It's been moved by Member Bennett and seconded by Member Thomas to approve the agenda for the special meeting of the Urban Renewal Agency. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say nay. Motion carries. Thank you. I don't see anyone signed up or present for public comment, so we will go right to our action item. Welcome, Mr. Wales.
Good evening. Thank you, Mayor. I'm John Wales, Director of Urban Development. What we prepared tonight is a staff report summarizing where we are with our Toolbox Grant Program in the Riverfront Downtown Urban Renewal area, and to alert Council that we are running short of funds below below the amount of applications that we're receiving, and to want to alert you to that, and to share with you, or to get some direction as to how we're going to proceed in addressing that. And what the situation is that we currently have over $600,000 of projects that have been requested for our Toolbox program, which is a good thing. Most of these applications have shown that there's a lot of interest in investing in downtown, in reducing vacancy space, and to bring more expansion and vitality into the downtown, which we think is a good thing, and supports what the direction that the council has given. Currently, we only have $300,000 left in that program. So we're short $300,000. And typically what we do when we come into these situations with our loan and grant programs, we come to council with a recommendation of either moving money from other URA funds or other solutions to cover those. What we're suggesting is that we go back to the Downtown Advisory Board, and there are really two funds that that we can look at, or that are the most obviously available to cover the shortfall. One is our loan program. We have $500,000 remaining in that, and the other is the demonstration grant program, which we have $500,000 in. Now, in addition to the shortfall of $300,000, as I said, we've got applications in that would create a shortfall of $300,000. We also have had verbal conversations, and there's another $200,000 of applications that are out there that we think may become real at this point. We haven't received them, but we just wanted to alert you to there is a strong demand for that. So if you looked at the whole pot, we have $600,000 in applications. Currently, we have funding for $300,000. We know there's another $200,000 that may be coming in applications for a net shortfall of just under $500,000. So what we are proposing is to, as I said, go back to the Downtown Advisory Board and come back with a recommendation in early November to the council.
Okay.
If I could just maybe back up a little bit from it, because John's really focusing on the next step of where we go, is the mayor had asked that we bring an item back that, given your decision at the last council meeting to allocate an additional $3 million of URA funds to the Minto Brown Bridge, then had asked, can you bring us back more detail about then what happens with the grant programs and the loan program and that sort of thing, and give us the detail about what grants have been applied for. I think the good news is that in addition to going forward with the bridge, that we'll also be going forward with a number of projects that are eligible for grant funds within the Riverfront URA. So we'll see a lot of work going on there with those projects. And as we had mentioned before, to be able to fund all of those, it may be necessary to move some money from one line item to another if the Urban Renewal Agency Board wants to fund more grants, or if you want to have loans and grants, or there's still $500,000 left in the demonstration block grant program that you might want to move to grants. So it's really, I think, for you to have a discussion about that direction.
Thank you. Well, it is particularly encouraging that we have the activity downtown and the number of property owners and investors that are looking seriously and positively at the downtown. And it's encouraging to know that we will be able to have a plan in place to meet those requests in a chronological system. Do councilors have any questions or would like to make any comments? Councilor Nanke and then Councilor Blasey.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, and thanks for the secondary set of handouts, because I couldn't find the gray in the first one. It was like, so that was going to be my front-end question. But in regards to that, now that I can actually see those projects that wouldn't be funded under the current funding level, how several of these were turned in on September 20th. Only 2 of those are above the line. Were they received before? Is it strictly first come, first put into the loop?
Yeah.
And with that many all showing up on one day?
We've just listed them in the order that we've received them. Some of them are in various stages of being ready to actually do their project, but just for the order that for the council's information, we've listed them in the order that they have come in.
So were they hand-delivered then on that day?
On that day, and I can, yes,
And
I
those were the
believe
first
they were
people
all
through
in
the
on
door?
that, they were all logged in and received by the agency on that day. There's just that some were within the 300,000 and some are below, the ones after. That doesn't make sense.
No.
Okay. The list that you have before you are the projects that have come in order that they have been received by the agency. All the gray area shows is that the area that right now where we have funding, the $300,000 can cover. The gray is showing you the shortfall.
And my question was more, on the 20th, the ones who are actually above the gray line, did they hand theirs in first? Or how did-
Sheree Morgan, Downtown Revitalization Manager. Yes, so basically, 340 Court Street came in on the 22nd, and we logged them in based on first come, first serve. So again, Liberty, it's the same property owner for the Bishop Building, the Metropolitan, Yeater, and PGE. So again,
Okay.
those all came in on the same day. It could have been by mail, it could have been electronically, but however the order was of which we received them, we put them in on this
Okay.
list. So again, at some point, the line is drawn because we would run out of money.
All right, that explains it, I think. I think I'm good.
Okay. Counselor Blasey and then Counselor Bennett.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Sorry. The question I have is just clarification, so I make sure that I understand this. So the funding strategy listed on the front side was the original funding strategy that we had seen for the bridge. And then the revised strategy includes the adjustment made, what we're discussing this evening. So where I'm not 100% clear is the impact to the bridge funding.
Okay. You're correct. The first page shows where the URA budget stood before the $3 million for the bridge was identified to be relocated. The back page shows after last week's approval to move that funding, what is the result? What does that look like? So what the back page shows is this is what the current budget looks like. So the bridge funding has been moved, and the conversation tonight is over the grant program.
Correct.
And what that is showing is that there's currently $300,000 left in that program, and we're oversubscribed. And there are opportunities, if the council chooses to fund those grants that are oversubscribed from a couple of sources, either the remaining toolbox, the remaining toolbox loan program or the demonstration block.
Okay. And just to follow up, so just so I'm clear, then by what we're looking at this evening that's being proposed, that would not have an impact then on the bridge funding?
No.
That still would remain
That still
in
remains
place
where it
as
is.
we had previously discussed and approved?
That's correct.
Okay, great.
That's
Thank
correct.
you.
If I could, Mayor, this isn't an action item. It's really the mayor's request that it be very clear to council the other kind of projects that are coming forward in the grant. And we anticipated there would be a need to move some funds from one line item to another to meet this need. So it's really just for clarification purposes, I think, and discussion.
Well, unless someone just does
Right, that's
make a
right.
motion, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, now let's see where we are in the list here. Member Bennett, and then Member Dickey, and then Member Clausen.
Great. Thank you, Madam Mayor. I appreciate you requesting this information. I think it's helpful for us as we move ahead after funding the bridge project, which continues to be, for me, the top urban renewal priority in downtown Salem. And I assume because of the vote last time, that's kind of generally where we all are. What is encouraging is that this is exactly what I expected we would see. I didn't expect to see it right away, although it makes sense to take it up as soon as we can to do whatever movement of funds is needed to guarantee that programs that are ideas or projects that are ready to go are ready to go. I assume that not all of these have been qualified or approved of this list of projects.
What those are reflecting are applications that have been submitted.
Have any of them been approved yet?
No. No.
When do you expect they would, how does that process work?
Well, typically what would happen is that the application would come in, we would review it. There would be a staff recommendation to the director, to me, and that we would make a decision whether it met the requirements of the program or not. Given the fact that there are so many that are coming in, and that there are so many that if nothing is done, won't be funded, we thought it would be important to first alert you to that and give you this information report that would indicate that we'll be back with a strategy on how you could fund these. And then as they become ready, we would be approving them if they qualified. And most of them that are on this list that we've taken a look at believe that they would.
Okay. But there is no, this is part of the, as I recall, kind of just going over this and our discussions in advance of our decision last week, that plan is in place. I mean, we have a plan where there are underutilized programs in the urban renewal system that we can move over the money to fund the areas where there's really active interest and the possibility of urban renewal.
That's
good. I will tell you that at some point, I hope when we go into our discussion of policies, priorities, all the things for the Urban Renewal Agency, I hope we will get an opportunity to talk about our role as lenders. I think there is an interesting discussion there that we could have on whether or not we ought to, these are not loans, these are grants, but just at some future date, I think it'd be interesting to have a discussion of how that works and is that the role of the agency and all that. But this, I'm real comfortable with this. This is what I expected to see. It is interesting to see the specific projects. That is really interesting. So, thank you.
Counselor Dickey? Excuse me, Member Dickey.
Thank you. Yeah, just a couple quick questions. I had some of the same questions just to confirm. This is pretty much what we decided on last week. Is that correct? And this is just a little expanded with more information.
What this reflects, and as Councilor Dickey showed, that the back page of the budget shows where the budget currently stands, and you will see that the money, if you look at the line items under expenditures, the money, the $4,688,000 is in the Minto Brown Island Bridge, and then it lists all the remaining projects and funding that is available with it.
So, yeah, and I would concur that the bridge is priority for me as well. So I know you guys can work some magic, and you do that sometimes and you're able to be really creative with funding. So hopefully we can work out something for these other ones. And just another clarifying question. In the staff report, you indicated there was a prospective buyer that was looking at a couple of potentially loans for the program. That's not reflected in the sheet that you gave us. Is that correct?
That's correct. But the reason that we added that, this conversation is primarily on the grant program, but we also wanted just to alert you that although we've had issued no loans in the past 6 years, we haven't had any applications since 2006. We are starting to get interest in the loan program again, and this was just to identify that there has been some serious interest in the loan program as well.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Member Clausen.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have two questions. One, like Member Bennett mentioned, I love seeing that there are people interested in this because it's been so not happening, and seeing something happen downtown makes me very optimistic for our economy here in Salem and for our economy downtown. So my first question is there ever been a program related to our URA downtown to be able to grant or loan monies in excess of $1 million?
In excess, other than the demonstration block program, which we've just, the council just implemented this year, I don't think we have. Is that correct?
But the demonstration block grant
That was $1
wasn't
million.
able to go to one project over $1 million, am I right?
It could go up to $1 million.
It could go up
But in
to-
our toolbox, I'm not aware that a grant program we've ever.
Sure. Or
given
loan, or loan.
A loan, yes. A loan, we
One of
have.
the programs we had in the toolbox was Special Housing Opportunity Loan. And it was the opposite of the building rehabilitation program, because that was for renovation of existing building, and Special Housing Opportunity was for new construction. It was based on $50,000 per unit, and the loan that we put out for that particular program was $2.1 million. And we did do one building rehabilitation loan in downtown. It was an exception to the $1 million, and you approved $340,000.
So it has been possible. Is it still possible under our current programs, if the funding was in one of these line items, to do something like that?
Right now, there's a possibility for $1 million in loan, and although we don't have the funding for it.
Right.
And there is still up to $100,000 per building, $50,000 interior, $50,000 exterior for a grant.
So if it was ever going to go over $1 million, it's a special exception.
We would
by
have to
the
bring that to the
board.
council for that discussion.
Okay, thank you. And then my second question, in the grant program, which we've been discussing mostly here, once we get through the approval process, if more projects are approved than we are able to accept because of our funding limits, how long does it take for, well, and I guess maybe this isn't, how long does it take for us to make the necessary budget adjustment? And I guess maybe the bigger thought is, let's make sure we get through that process in time to make that budget adjustment if we have to, or at least be able to consider it, because I would love to see things happening with our buildings downtown. So.
And that's a very good question, Councilor. What the revised budget, the back sheet of the budget page shows, is that right now, having moved the money to the Minto-Brown Island Bridge, there's $496,000 available this budget year for loans. There's another $500,000 for the demonstration block program. There's $106,000 for Vision 2020 projects. And then there's $750,000 to acquire new property, property. That really is the universe of what the grant program can be, what can be tapped this year. And in next year's budget, depending on how all that comes together, there may be other opportunities as well. But that really is the universe that we're talking about as far as funding this year.
Mr. Wills, can you talk about the process we see happening with the DAB and to go forward with the recommendation back to the agency board?
What we had envisioned, what this information report suggests, is that we would alert the DAB to that. We've got $300,000 of grant money available, currently budgeted, and $600,000 in oversubscribed projects. And we would alert them to that. And what they've done in the past is made a recommendation on which pot of money they would recommend putting into the grant program. And we would bring that back to the council for consideration. And we're suggesting doing that in early November.
Did you have another question?
I do.
Okay.
On the targeted property acquisition, since that's kind of the big line item, do we have anything that's in the pipeline? I mean, is there anything in consideration as far as targeted property acquisitions that DAB is considering or staff is considering?
I think probably we want discussion about that for a second.
City attorney.
City attorney has a comment.
Okay.
You missed an executive session.
Got it. Never mind. That's what happens when family's in town.
Okay, were there other questions or comments from councilors? My questions have actually been answered very thoroughly. I appreciate very much the work the staff has done to put this together. I recognize that my request was late in the week and that it meant extra time, and I do appreciate it. I think this has been an opportunity for the council to really look at the numbers, look at the projects, and I personally feel encouraged that we're going to be able to do such a number of projects in the downtown and the bridge to Minto Brown Island. There will need to be community funds and grant funds we're still applying for. And, but I'm very optimistic about that and pleased about that decision that we've made. And this feels to me like kind of like an early Christmas present to think that we could have all of this activity going downtown to really revitalize, not just downtown, but it really brings up the whole city. So thank you to staff for putting this together, and I understand you'll be back then with more information for us in early November?
That's correct.
Okay. All right. Are there other questions or comments by members? All right. Is there anything further to come before this body? I have no other action items that are on my agenda.
Mayor, there is one action item.
calendar.
It's the approval of the budget calendar.
Oh,
Yes.
all right. Okay. Oh, yes, thank you. Member Bennett, would you like to make a motion?
Yes, Madam Mayor. I move approval of the proposed Urban Renewal Agency budget calendar for fiscal year 2013-14.
It's been moved by Member Bennett and seconded by Member Nanke to approve the staff recommended calendar for the Urban Renewal Agency Board budget calendar. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Thank you. That does complete our business this evening, and we are adjourned.